And tell us about when you first met Francis Coppola.
Well, I didn't do any of the beach pictures. I was doing the Poe pictures, and then later on, the sort of in the streets pictures like the Wild Angels and the Trip and so forth. I've forgotten, there was a very good director. The name will come to me as I leave the theater.
William Asher.
Yes, Bill Asher.
Bill Asher.
Yes, Bill Asher did the beach pictures. He was very good, and he was able to bring a sort of innocent, comedic sexuality to the beach pictures. So nobody could complain, yet at the same time they were filled with sex, and they were very successful. As to Francis Coppola, the way he came to me, I had bought 2 Russian science fiction films, and they were really wonderful films from a special effects standpoint, and I was going to dub them into English, but they were filled with the most outrageous anti-American propaganda, and I had to cut that stuff out, and I called the UCLA film department, asked them who their about to be graduates, who their top students were, and they sent over 2 or 3, and I talked to them, and I liked Francis, and so Francis' first assignment was to edit Russian science fiction films, and then he became my assistant, and then he did his first film, Dementia 13, for me.
Yeah.
Well, you almost, it's impossible to not talk about The Terror, Roger, because this is a legendary story in filmmaking. When the sets for The Raven were about to be dismantled, Roger was in a panic because they were so beautiful, and why not, could I, in, what was it, 3 days, 5 days, make another film? And you went home and it was raining, and you said, I'm not gonna burn another, I won't burn a castle down, I'll flood it. And then you got Francis to go, what was it, up to Monterey and shoot second unit, and
That's pretty close to the, as a matter of fact, that's very close to the story. We were finishing The Raven, they were great sets, and I was supposed to play tennis on a Sunday before the last week of shooting, and it rained, and I was sitting around having nothing to do. So I called Leo Gordon, a writer who was a friend of mine, and I said, why don't we work something out and I can go onto these sets and make a little picture. But I've only got, this is Sunday, I've got to shoot a week from Monday. And so we worked out that afternoon the storyline, and I said, I will shoot 2 days on these sets. And so all you really have to do in this coming week, having worked out the storyline, is write the actual scenes for those 2 days. And then at a later date, we'll shoot the rest of the picture. So he did, and on Monday morning, I asked Vincent if he'd like to stay for 2 days and shoot another picture, and he was going to give an art lecture, and he couldn't do it. So I went to the next dressing room, and it was Boris's, and I said, Boris, would you like to stay? And he said, Boris said, sure, I'll do it. So what it was, I'm a member of the Directors Guild, and I was signed with the IA and all the unions and everything. So we shot the 2 days on the sets, which was much money I had. And, oh, and the young lead in The Raven was Jack Nicholson.
Yeah.
So I said, Jack, I'm going to shoot this thing, and Boris is going to work 2 days, and that's going to be all he's going to do in the picture, and you can work with him if you want, and then the whole picture will be you, and we'll work it out at a later date what's going to happen. And Jack said, sure. He said, but can Sandy be the leading lady? Sandra Knight was his wife. I said, sure, Sandy's a good actress. Happy to have her be the leading lady. And I couldn't shoot the rest of the film because of my union affiliations. So my ace assistant, Francis Coppola, shot some more up at Big Sur. And then he got a deal at Warner Brothers. So, and we were shooting on and off. And then I got a little more money, and Monty Hellman directed a couple of more scenes. And a little later on, Jack Hill directed the scenes. And, you know, and finally we had the film almost cut together, and it really didn't make any sense. So I was then shooting another picture, another Poe picture, And I paid the crew a little bit extra, and I brought Jack Nicholson, Sandy, and Dick Miller, and we shot a whole new ending for the picture in 1 hour at the end of shooting the other picture we were working on. The picture actually has been seriously reviewed, and frankly, it makes no sense at all.
Well, when they review it, they say it's very Bergman-like.
Obscure.
Do we have other? Yeah, it's right there.
The title of your book was How I Made 100 Pictures and Never Lost a Dime. I'm wondering if that's still true, and what was it in your background or upbringing that made you so frugal?
Well,
Able to do this so
first,
successfully?
the title is not true. It wasn't true at the time. If there's anything in the background, I'm a child of the Depression, and maybe that had something to do with it. But they picked the title of How I Made the publisher. And I called them, I said, you know, I've made around 200 films, and I've lost a couple of times. And they said, oh, I've forgotten the editor. What the editor said, has every title of every film you've ever made stated exactly what was in the film. And I said, call the book anything you want.
We have, how about right here?
Mr. Corman, a DVD came out in Europe recently of one of your early classics, which I like very much, Teenage Caveman.
I want to say right now, I never made a picture called Teenage Caveman. I made a picture called Prehistoric World. AIP had just had a success with I Was a Teenage Frankenstein or something like that, and they changed the title. I then oh, I can remember the review in the LA Times. It said, despite its 10-cent title, Teenage Caveman is a surprisingly good picture. I went to AIP and I said, really, this title is ridiculous, dump it. And they finally dumped it and went back to Prehistoric World, but it's been known as Teenage Caveman.
Yes, I was just wondering if the star of that movie was the young Robert Vaughn.
Yes.
I wondered if his girlfriend at the time was Joyce Jameson. Is that why she got cast in the movie we've just seen?
Joyce was Bob's girlfriend, but it wasn't so much that she was Bob's girlfriend, it's that we were all young, we knew each other, it was a whole group in Hollywood, and people would cast each other in pictures, one director would work with another director, and it was just sort of, and I'm sure it's going on today as we talk now as veteran, and Mark is a little younger than I am, but Mark is a semi-veteran there too. Somewhere in Hollywood there are groups of young people doing much the same, and they're casting each other in their films and so forth. I liked Joyce. She was very good, a great comedian.
She also worked with Jacques Tourneur in Comedy of Terrors, and I knew her till the end of her life. And she was a terrific lady, and I did the last interview she ever gave. And sadly, she's not with us anymore. And when I moved to Palm Springs, I met the other woman that had been her partner on the Andy Griffith Show. It was so strange, Jean Carson. I said, why couldn't I have met you two at the same time? But Joyce loved. She was married to Billy Barnes at one time, and her son Tyler is still with us. And they used to throw parties and show tales of terror. And Joyce would say, all I can remember is Peter Lorre's stomach was so like this, the cat kept falling off of it. The cat could never sit on his chest. The manager has just informed me that they want to show Masque of the Red Death, and you will be all the better for having watched it. I want to thank Roger Corman for being such a good sport, coming down here and talking about Vincent Price. Roger, thank you so much.